873-7441. Hospice of Marion County, making more moments of life possible.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking: will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. If you have a famous brother or a famous sibling or anybody in your famous family who's famous, you often wonder, well, you wouldn't wonder if it was in your family, I guess, but when you view other families, you wonder, what are the others thinking of? What are they thinking about, when they look at their brother up there on the stage and, and they wash dishes for a living or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing can happen when somebody gets seriously ill. And it's something I don't think I've ever considered this before. Sally Loughridge is on the phone, and she has written a sweet book. It's called Daniel and His Starry Night Blanket. And Sally herself is a cancer survivor, a professional artist, and a clinical and child psychologist. And the book, Daniel and His Starry Night Blanket, is described as a story of illness and sibling love, and the story of a young boy as he is impacted by his sister's cancer journey. I understand it's his older sister. So Sally's got a lot to offer us, not just the story, but also insight into the way art has an effect on us, how stories have an effect on us, and how simply we can understand each other and what we're all going through to make life a little bit better in the long run. Sally Loughridge, good morning, Sally. How are you?
Good morning, Larry and Robin. I am just fine, and I'm delighted to speak with you.
And where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Midcoast, Maine.
Maine?
Lived here year-round through the stormy winters and the wonderful summers for about 16 years.
Really? Where did you move there from?
Well, I moved from Vermont, another place I love,
Okay.
but wanted to get over toward the ocean.
Now you're near the coast. Oh, wow. So what is it like? What is it like today? It's raining here in Florida today.
It's not raining yet. It is cloudy, overcast, but humid and heading up in the temperature. We've had beautiful weather, but with lots of heat in the last few weeks.
So let's talk about the book. Obviously, well, first of all, let me ask you about your health. It says here you're a cancer survivor. How are you doing now?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thank you for asking.
And how long ago are you in remission or cured, or what do we say about your?
I have friends who have had cancer, and they don't use the word survivor because they see it as having been a cancer patient. You are a cancer patient. I like to think of it not so much that I'm a survivor, but that I'm healthy and well. So this was about 5 years ago that I had surgery and then radiation treatment. And since then, I've been healthy.
Wow, well, good for you. Now are you, does the book that we're going to talk about come from that experience?
Not completely. It was more complex than that. I can tell you about how it evolved. It actually started from my practice of child psychology. I was a child psychologist with a private practice for almost 30 years in Vermont. And I also loved to paint from early childhood. So I found myself making paintings of a small child as he grew. A child from early childhood, from the age of 1 or so on. And I put in the story as kind of a continuing thread his relationship to his, well, some folks call it the blankie, other people call it the transitional object if you're a psychologist.
Right.
But it could be a stuffed animal, it could be a strange object that the kid adopted as his very special object. But I showed the blanket in the paintings as his use of it and need for it changed over a couple of years. So that's how this all began. But as I was doing this, I began to think about all the challenges that can happen during early childhood. Absence of a parent, poverty, a parent being in jail, trauma, sexual abuse, those things. And those are the kinds of things that I dealt with when children came to see me in my practice in Vermont. So I started thinking about introducing some tough time into the story that I was developing. And then this was around the time that I had cancer. So I thought about what it would be like to have cancer in the family, in one of the children. I realized that there are lots of, materials, books, articles written for ill kids, but there are far less materials developed for the siblings. As a psychologist,
wow, that is you're probably right. Yeah. So what is? I'm guessing the book deals with this, but I'm just curious. What is it? I mean, is it obviously if you're the parent of somebody who has cancer? I mean, it's going to be love on top of love. Does the sibling have that same love, or is it jealousy? What happens there?
Well, yeah, good questions. I mean, the sibling certainly has the love if it existed before. The problem is, or the challenge, maybe I should say that, is that the attention, the parental attention is going to flow most to the sickest child, especially in the early stages of diagnosis and trying to figure out what's wrong, getting used to new language, terminology, and the scary possibilities. And the sibling, be it a young sibling or an older sibling, can really feel left out. They can feel scared that they might get it. They can feel scared for their sibling. They can feel lonely because there go mom and dad taking the other child off to the hospital or to doctor's appointments frequently. They can have new babysitters. They can feel jealous even. That's one of the things that I realized back when I was seeing kids around these kind of things. They can feel jealous of all the attention that the ill child gets. Imagine, the ill child's room is filling up with gifts and cards,
right,
balloons, and all of that. And so it's really the young kid, especially the young kid, thinking, hey, don't forget about me.
Do you know, I want to tell you a little story. I met two sisters. It was last year. I met two sisters, and one of the sisters was born with a craniofacial deformity and had, dozens of surgeries to get her to the point where I met her. I mean, she clearly had a face different than most children. And I went to a craniofacial gathering, so there was lots of children like this. But this particular girl had an older sister, just maybe a year or two older.
Right.
And I interviewed both of them because I went there to interview them with video camera. And when you watch the video camera, the older sister's, I think she was college age.
Yeah.
She was just
she's in
early college. And he makes you they didn't seem to have jealousy, but of course I didn't really know them intimately. But I wondered if the child with the condition was jealous of the pretty sister, or if vice versa may be true. If the pretty sister was actually jealous of all the attention that the younger but deformed sister has.
I think all of the above can happen. And also the pattern of feelings that one sibling may have may vary a little bit from what a similar age sibling might have in another family. There's so many variables involved. Also, I think that older siblings teenagers and older, well, they have their own Sturm and Drang, and adolescent challenges, that they have literally the cognitive ability to understand what's going on better. They have a better ability, usually, to delay gratification. They're usually, if they're willing, more able to articulate how they feel. But think about a preschool kid, where immediacy is the rule. They want what they want now. They haven't quite learned to delay gratification enough, and that has to do with both cognitive development and emotional development.
And the acceptance of one's talent, because usually siblings don't have the same interests. If they do, maybe one sibling has more of an interest in that particular thing than the other sibling, and they try to get along and join by sharing that love, but each sibling has to be allowed to grow into their own personal talent. But then the other sibling, it's very important for them to recognize that they're different and they have to support them.
That's absolutely true, and it's true in healthy families, too. One analogy might be, we've all skipped stones, right, in ponds or in, things like that, or streams. But if a couple of us are standing there, say, skipping our stones, putting them in the water, think about, you can visualize how the ripples where one stone drops and another stone drops, they intersect with each other. They affect the other concentric circles coming out from where the stones dropped. And I think of that in terms of families, too. So it's almost like, this is going to be too broad a statement, but everything influences everything else.
Wow. Sally,
that makes sense. Yeah.
It does, and I have so many questions. I want to ask, once we understand this, how do we actually use this information, especially if you're a parent, or in your case, a psychologist? And of course, we want to make sure we understand what the book is. So let's take a little break, and we'll be right back. Sally Loughridge on the phone up in Maine. Yeah. That is cool. The book is called Daniel and His Starry Night Blanket. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Clouds will limit our sunshine today, and there'll be a couple of heavy thunderstorms around, mainly during the afternoon, high 82 to 88. Tonight, partly cloudy with a shower thunderstorm, low 72 to 75. Tomorrow, partly sunny with a shower thunderstorm in the afternoon, high 87 to 90. Wednesday, partly sunny with a couple of thunderstorms around in the afternoon. Highs on Wednesday, 87 to 92 degrees. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Mike Listini.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
We're saving thousands with Robert Palmer.
So rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around. If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get the best credit card, if you're looking at student loans, cell phone bills, you name it, rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around.
That's rule number one, just one more vital part of fighting back to stop being a financial zombie. Yes, you can take the mystery out of the complicated world of finances. Take charge when it comes to your money. Listen in on The Source, 96.3 FM and 1370 AM, Saturdays at 12:05.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this rainy first workday of August. On the phone, and Robin just informed me that I've been saying our guest's name incorrectly. I always ask every single guest.
She told us.
I know. I always ask, how am I doing with the name? And for some reason today, I forgot to ask. Sally Loughridge is our guest, and I'm sorry I mispronounced Sally's name. The book is Daniel and His Starry Night Blanket. This is more than a conversation about a children's book, although that's why we're here. It's really this fascinating subject about it could be anybody. It could be for any reason that sibling rivalry or sibling jealousy or sibling love might be elevated because of somebody else getting more attention among the children. Sally, does this ever happen with a parent? Like, in other words, does a parent ever get jealous because a child is getting more attention?
What a great question. I've never been asked that one before. Certainly, I think they could. Parents are overwhelmed by, when their kids get sick, when it's a really scary, life-threatening illness, because so much changes for them. Routines change. They have to learn the new language. They have to explore the diagnoses. They have to consider treatment options. There's just so much going on. And there may be financial strains and so forth. And the parents themselves may actually regress in their own ability to handle things. In times of trauma or, let's say, severe family change, serious family change, divorce, death, jailing, most people are not at their best, when those things happen. But imagine it's your child that's ill. And so on top of, taking care of their own needs, they have to take care of the needs of all their children, the healthy ones as well as the ill ones.
When you did the artwork for your book, did you have a few pieces of art that you had created just because, and did you draw them into the book, or did you do all new?
Well, I actually started with the paintings when I did this. So I started with the idea of a young child that was just developing normally and wanted to do some paintings of that. So I started doing the paintings, and I decided to start at zero, so to speak, right before he was born. That painting did not make it into the book, but it's a picture of the grandmother making him his starry night blanket.
Wow.
And then the book actually starts, the first painting you see in there, and I'm flipping in this copy I have here, to a picture of his mom holding him, the newborn, wrapped in his starry night blanket. So I really started with paintings, and then I would look at the paintings and I would write down some words. That was the beginning of the writing. And then that would, I'd think about as the kid was getting older, what would happen next and how could I show him growing and playing. And then I introduced his sister getting ill. So he had this sister, Kate, from the beginning. She's 3 years older than he is, and always a good playmate and eager for him to grow and become more of a, kid that could interact with her.
I'm looking at the PDF that was sent to us of the book, and it is really well done. We have so many authors that are children's authors, and very rarely are they also the illustrator, the artist of the artwork. Do you know, the other day, I think it was during the weekend, I was watching this video, and it was showing you if you have a distressed pet because your dog doesn't like when you leave the house.
Yeah,
give the dog a piece of your clothing that has your scent on it, and it'll comfort him. And then it said, in the same way as a security blanket comforts us as children. So,
exactly.
But why? Why is that? I mean, with a dog, I guess they can smell us, but we can't. I mean, is it scent for us? What is it exactly about a security blanket?
Again, another good question. Maybe it's because it's a familiar object that comforts a child. It's been there from virtually the beginning. In my case, in this story, the boys had his blanket from the day he was born. And often there are things that are soft or fuzzy, something you can cuddle with, wrap around you, or snuggle with, like a stuffed dog or elephant or whatever it might be.
Right.
When my kids were born, I made them each a blanket that happened to have stars on them.
Really?
Yeah. And so that made it into the book. But interestingly, my daughter adopted the blanket I made her as her blankie, her transitional object, but my son did not. He liked his blanket, but what he adopted as his transitional object were all of the, what they called in those days, receiving blankets. Those little white blankets, and 12 came in a package.
Oh, yes.
And this is, I'm dating myself by decades, but this is what you wrapped your newborn in. And you had a lot of them because they got dirty. Mm-hmm. Well, the positive thing of this around my son was that he couldn't tell them apart. So I could wash 2 of them, and he still had his blanket all.
Oh, that's a good story.
But my daughter would get upset when her blanket had to be washed if she was, say, crabby that day or tired or something like that. She didn't want to have me take it away to wash it and dry it.
Wow. So is a woman's pocketbook or purse, depending on what part of the country you're from, is that a security blanket? Is my phone my security blanket?
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh, maybe that's true. I'm not a psychologist of phones, so I'm not going to comment on this. But that's an interesting concept. People do seem bound to their phones.
So I want to know, do the children who read the books, Daniel and his Starry Night Blanket, do they see themselves, and do they modify their behavior, or is that a little bit too much to expect from them? Or, in other words, how does this enlightened understanding of us as human beings, how do we use that information?
Again, thank you for asking that, because I've thought a lot about that too. I wanted it to be an entertaining story and to have something happen and to have it show Daniel's and his sister over the course of a couple years, so I could put his development in there and his changing relationship, of course, with his blanket. But I'm hoping that the book will entertain is not the word in this kind of a situation. Engage. That the book will engage children. And for those kids that are in a similar situation, they may not feel like Daniel. They might feel like Daniel. The important thing is that the book can be a catalyst for discussion with their parents, a catalyst for expression of their own feelings, in a sense giving them permission to have intense feelings like this boy in the book has.
And it's really wonderful that you did focus on the well child and not the child that was hurting and going through this, because this is another reason why you're so great in working with children, is that you see all aspects of everything.
Well, yeah, certainly. And how the healthy child relates to the ill child is another variable. It's certainly not the healthy child's business or role to take care of either his parents or the ill child, but how he connects, how he or she connects with the sick child will have an impact. And so, it's this reverberating echoes of interaction, like I was describing kind of metaphorically through the skipping of stones into the pond.
Yeah, I like that metaphor.
Now, at the end of the book, I do have a whole section on ways to use the book. Suggestions for parents with their kids, for activities with kids, and suggestions for therapists and counselors, as well as trigger questions that could be used for adult discussion groups that are professionally led.
A few years ago, I worked at an assisted living facility, and one of the things that I realized was that if there's a woman, for example, and her husband has dementia, and her whole life has now changed because he's no longer the same person, and it's like taking care of a baby in her world, and one of the things I realized, one of the things I realized is ask her, how are you doing? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing you can ask, because they suddenly realize that somebody cares about their experience in all of this,
Well, that also reminds me about, when you fly and they give you the little speech at the beginning about when if the oxygen mask dropped down, don't put your kids on first, put yours on first. Right. You have to be put together enough to then help. And I think that's another analogy we could use here. The parents really need to take care of themselves. Fortunately, there are a lot of support networks for caregivers of the elderly, but also for caregivers, not just parents, but grandparents and extended family of very ill children. I just don't want the healthy kids to get overlooked in all of this. And I'm sure that I know that there are thousands and thousands of families that do this juggling act very, very well. But I wanted to provide some more ideas for the families, permission for the kids, and a book that the children could go back to. Most kids' books, you probably remember this, you don't just read it and it's gone. It may be the one they want to read every night for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And if you think the child is asleep, so you're going to stop reading the book, they say no. Or if you try reading
That's right.
you know.
Right.
I remember, just one more sentence, I remember, because I thought, say, one of my children was asleep as I'm reading this book for the 20th time, and I would change a word in a sentence, and suddenly the sleeping child was not asleep. It said, no, it didn't say
that's
that.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Sally, sometimes we speak to people, and it's amazing that both sides of the brain are working just as well.
Mm-hmm.
The artist side works for you. The thinking, analytical side works for you, and there's another line going down to your heart. So you're a triangle lady.
I don't mind being a triangle.
Sally,
I'd like to.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say, I'd just like to mention the name of another book that I did it was an accidental book I did when I was in radiation treatment. It's called Rad Art, A Journey Through Radiation Treatment. Rad, wow. R-A-D, Art. And it shows the 33 small paintings I made during daily radiation. And what I did was to deliberately, every day, come home from my radiation treatment and make a painting in less than 20 minutes because I didn't want to engage that left side of my brain. I didn't want to think too hard. I just wanted to express how I was feeling about having cancer and being in treatment. And then I wrote down, a sentence or so after I did my painting. And then I was done with it for the day. About a year later, when people kept urging me to let this be a book, it became a book. Somewhat later. It's published by the American Cancer Society.
Wow. Sally, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. The website for Sally is her name, and it's SallyLoughridge.com. Loughridge is spelled Loughridge. Am I right, Sally?
You're absolutely correct, and thank you for letting me speak with you.
Thank you for being on the air with us, and definitely come back with the next book.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Take care.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
A slow clap goes out to your biker alter ego. You might be mild-mannered Michael in the office, the guy known for raising his hand in meetings, but out on the open road, it's Motor Mike. Geico supports you and your bike, Motor Mike, because beyond cars, Geico insures motorcycles.